In the northern reaches of Europe lies a country so small that most people barely notice it on a map. Yet despite its modest size, this nation has quietly become the backbone of modern digital society. Imagine a place where nearly every interaction between a citizen and the government happens online, where voting, banking, healthcare, and even business registration are all executed digitally. This is not science fiction. This is the reality of a country that dared to imagine a government without walls, a nation without queues, a society that exists as much in the cloud as on the ground. The story begins in the early 1990s, a time when the world was only beginning to grapple with the potential of the internet. Most countries relied on mountains of paperwork, bureaucratic procedures, and slow, inefficient systems. But in this small nation, a group of visionaries dared to think differently. They wanted to create a society that was fast, transparent, and secure. They envisioned digital IDs that could serve as passports, signatures, and keys to government services all in one. They imagined a system that would allow citizens to interact seamlessly with their government from anywhere in the world. Skeptics were quick to dismiss them. Critics said the country was too small, too remote, too vulnerable to ever pull off such an ambitious plan. But the pioneers persevered, building the infrastructure piece by piece. They began with the concept of secure digital identification, testing it in small pilot programs. Hospitals and schools were among the first institutions to embrace this change, integrating digital records and online processes into their daily operations. By the end of the decade, the foundations were laid for something far bigger than anyone could have anticipated. The journey was far from smooth. Resistance came from many directions. Security concerns, political pushback, and public skepticism threatened to derail the initiative. Citizens were wary of handing over their personal information to a digital system. Banks, businesses, and government agencies doubted whether digital governance could replace traditional methods. But slowly, small successes began to emerge. Digital signatures became legally recognized. Online services proved more efficient than paper-based systems. Entrepreneurs and citizens alike started to embrace the convenience of a digital-first society. By the early 2000s, the country had rolled out its first nationwide digital ID system. This innovation allowed citizens to access almost every public service online, from paying taxes to voting in elections. What seemed impossible just a few years earlier had become a working reality. This was a small country making a global impact, demonstrating that innovation does not require size, but vision and determination. As the digital infrastructure matured, the country continued to innovate. It introduced secure online voting, digital healthcare records, e-residency for foreign entrepreneurs, and a unique system of digital governance that other nations would later study closely. What began as an experiment became a model of efficiency and transparency, and quietly the world began to take notice. Businesses, governments, and tech experts around the globe were fascinated. They saw a nation that had turned digital strategy into a lifeline for society itself. But this early period of triumph was just the beginning. Beneath the surface, challenges were brewing that would test the very foundation of this digital experiment. Cybersecurity threats, political shifts, and global scrutiny were all looming over the country. The success of this small nation had drawn attention, and with attention came pressure. The story of how it survived these early trials, adapted to unforeseen crises, and solidified its role as a digital pioneer forms the next chapter of this extraordinary journey. Despite the early successes of its digital experiment, the country soon faced challenges that threatened to unravel everything it had built. What began as skepticism from citizens and bureaucrats transformed into a series of real crises, technical, political, and even social, that tested the resilience of the nation's digital infrastructure. The first major shock came from a cyber attack unlike anything the world had seen. Hackers attempted to infiltrate the national ID system, exposing vulnerabilities that could have compromised the identities of every citizen. While the intrusion was ultimately contained, it sent a stark warning. The country's reliance on digital systems made it both innovative and exposed. This period of uncertainty coincided with political turbulence. Leadership changes brought new visions, some of which clashed with the digital pioneers who had built the system from scratch. Debates erupted in parliament and public forums about privacy, national security, and the extent to which life should be governed online. Citizens were divided. Some praised the convenience and transparency of the digital system, while others feared the loss of traditional oversight and human control. The pressure was immense. What had once been a pioneering initiative now faced the risk of being dismantled or diluted by political compromise. Amid this turbulence, the country experienced economic instability. A small nation highly dependent on technology, it was vulnerable to global market shifts and financial pressures. Some doubted whether it could maintain investment in its digital infrastructure during a period of uncertainty. Yet it was precisely during these trials that the nation's innovators demonstrated the foresight and adaptability that would later define its global reputation. They refined cybersecurity protocols, strengthened data encryption, and developed contingency measures for everything from online voting to healthcare systems. What initially seemed like a potential collapse instead became a crucible, testing the durability of their vision. The social dimension of the crisis was equally complex. Citizens began to question the balance between convenience and control, privacy and efficiency. Digital dependency raised ethical debates. Could a society function entirely through screens and servers? What would happen if the systems failed? Yet even in these moments of doubt, the experiment persisted. Pilot programs were expanded to test resilience under stress, and feedback from citizens informed iterative improvements. The nation was learning in real time, adjusting policies, systems, and even the philosophy underpinning its digital governance. It was during this period that the country solidified its global influence. International observers, initially skeptical, began studying its systems closely. Governments and corporations sent delegations to understand how such a small country could achieve efficiency, security, and civic engagement on a scale previously thought impossible. Its successes and failures became case studies in resilience, innovation, and the power of vision. By weathering crises that might have destroyed a less nimble nation, it emerged stronger and more confident, ready to expand its influence far beyond its borders. By the end of this chapter in its history, the country had proven something remarkable. A small nation, when guided by intelligence, foresight, and relentless innovation, could not only survive adversity, but use it as a catalyst for even greater achievement. It had turned potential collapse into a proving ground, and the lessons learned during this turbulent period would lay the foundation for what would become its most ambitious and globally influential digital project yet. Emerging from the turbulence of early crises, the country entered a new era of unprecedented innovation. The lessons learned from cyberattacks, political skepticism, and public debate had forged a system stronger than anyone could have imagined. By combining secure digital infrastructure with transparency and citizen empowerment, the nation transformed itself into what the world would soon call the first true internet nation. Its pioneering digital identity system became the foundation for everything: online banking, e-governance, secure voting, healthcare, business registration, and even international entrepreneurship. Citizens could accomplish in minutes what once took hours or days, and the efficiency became a defining hallmark of the society. This success was not accidental. The country's leaders had invested not only in technology, but also in cultivating a culture of trust, education, and innovation. Schools integrated digital literacy into the curriculum, ensuring that citizens understood and could safely navigate the online systems they were now relying upon. The government maintained constant communication with its citizens, explaining updates, security measures, and the benefits of digitalization. Rather than imposing technology, it created a society where citizens felt ownership and participation in the system itself. This balance of innovation and trust became the nation's secret weapon, distinguishing it from other countries attempting similar reforms. Internationally, the impact was profound. Governments, tech companies, and NGOs around the world began to replicate elements of the system. Delegations traveled to the country to study its digital architecture, cybersecurity protocols, and e-governance methods. Multinational corporations collaborated with local startups, taking advantage of the country's streamlined bureaucracy and digital efficiency. In effect, a nation that once seemed insignificant on a map had quietly become a global influencer, shaping the standards of digital governance and cyber policy. But influence on the global stage also brought new responsibilities and challenges. Cybersecurity became a constant priority. As the country became a model for digital society, it also became a potential target for attacks and espionage. To safeguard its systems, it developed advanced protocols and collaborated with international cybersecurity experts. Every update, every software integration, and every policy decision was guided by lessons learned during its early crises. The country had not only built a functioning digital society, it had built one that was resilient, adaptive, and capable of defending itself against the evolving threats of the modern world. The country also pioneered programs that extended its digital infrastructure beyond its borders. Through initiatives like e-residency, entrepreneurs from anywhere in the world could start and manage businesses remotely, leveraging the country's efficient systems. This not only boosted the economy, but also established the nation as a hub for global innovation. Its influence on international commerce, governance, and technology policy became undeniable. Small though it might be geographically, its digital footprint expanded far beyond its borders, quietly shaping the way the modern world operates. By now, the world had learned a crucial lesson. True innovation does not always come from the largest nations or the most powerful economies. Sometimes it emerges from a place where vision, determination, and clever use of technology intersect. This country demonstrated that size is no barrier to global influence when ambition is paired with strategy, and that a small nation, if daring enough to experiment and resilient enough to adapt, can quietly change the world. As we look back on the journey of this digital pioneer, one thing becomes clear. The story of this country is not just about technology. It is a story of foresight, courage, and the human capacity to imagine a better way of living. It is a story that reminds us that innovation often begins in the most unlikely places, and that the future of society may depend on the vision and determination of those who dare to experiment. In a world where most governments are still struggling with bureaucracy and inefficiency, this tiny nation stands as a testament to what is possible when intelligence, trust, and ambition come together in harmony. The legacy of this country is still unfolding. Its systems continue to evolve, its influence continues to grow, and the world watches closely, often learning, sometimes imitating, and occasionally questioning the implications of a society that has embraced the digital revolution so completely. It is a story that combines triumph and caution, opportunity and responsibility, a reminder that the nations that dare to innovate are the ones that quietly shape the future of the world. If this story amazed you, don't stop here. The world is full of countries with secrets, mysteries, and innovations that few people know about. Subscribe to Country Mystery and hit the notification bell so you never miss a journey into the hidden stories shaping our world. Which country do you think secretly controls something in the world? Comment below. Your answer could inspire our next episode. And remember, the bigger the mystery, the more incredible the truth.